Welcome back to the Reier on YouTube channel, where it is time once again for Second Helping, the show of choice for fans and followers of the number one league in all of collegiate athletics, the Southeastern Conference. I'm going to get this audio taken care of real quick. I am Travis Reier, by the way, and we are live on a Thursday night alongside my great friend, Mr. Brent Beaird, a longtime college football analyst, most recently for First Coast News in Jacksonville, Florida, which is timely and apropos because we're going to start with the ousting of Billy Napier as the head football coach at the University of Florida. Brent, we haven't had a chance to convene and touch on that topic since it seemingly finally came to fruition, because it had been talked about. It had been, I think, hoped for in some corners of that Florida fan base and alumni base for the better part of a year and a half now, but it has arrived. Billy Napier out. More so, what's the feeling you get in terms of where that program might go next? There's one name that certainly seems to be at the top of that.
There is. I would say at this point, the two names that I'm hearing, frankly, are Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, and also I think Eli Drinkwith are the two big names that I hear more than anything else. I know that Dan Lanning has been mentioned. I think he is just in there with every time there's a big name job come open, it's convenient to put his name in there. Marcus Freeman is not leaving Notre Dame to go to Florida. I don't think so. So I think at this point, Travis, the two names that you hear as much as anything are Kiffin and Drinkwith.
I think it's Kiffin far and away as the top choice, because I've already sensed a shift in almost a sort of single file now with Florida fans and Florida media, UF media in Northeast Florida. They are in lockstep. It feels like right now, Lane. And yeah, Eli Drinkwitz, you hear about maybe more so as a secondary candidate if it doesn't work out with Lane Kiffin. But yes, the Ducks are in a row. It seems like now, we'll see what exactly happens with that. Is it a program that ultimately can entice Lane? Lane has said many times he feels indebted to Ole Miss, not just in terms of his coaching career, but the strides he's made personally, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And look, he's grown up a lot, particularly after the death of his father.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's had several jobs, obviously, but he has really grown into the Ole Miss job. Now, my understanding is he basically only answers to the president of Ole Miss instead of a milieu of other people, which is good for him. Now, I understand Ole Miss has come back and offered him some very attractive money, like 13 million, something in that nature, which would be a lot to think about at this point. But in fairness to Lane, I mean, he basically has told them that he's not going to really talk about it until the season is over. And I think they've even offered a contract negotiations, and he has put that on hold at this time. So look, it's never a good time to have to renegotiate something during your season, and we'll see where it goes. But he will get paid handsomely either way, in either place that he goes. So that I think that's kind of what he's weighing right now, which is quite an enviable position to be in, right?
Yeah, and an enviable position his agent, Jimmy
Yeah,
Sexton,
yeah.
continues to be in as sort of
Mhm.
the job maker and the matchmaker of college
Yeah,
football
yeah.
coaches. And no matter what, Jimmy's going to get paid, and so are a
No
lot of his
question.
other clients. And you start thinking
Mhm.
about a domino effect with
Yeah.
all of these openings in college football coming up in the next days, weeks, and months. And speaking of Ole Miss, this has got to be more of a tougher situation in season because, you know, as popular as Lane is, his team's coming off a loss on the road in
Yeah,
which it
yeah,
was a two-score. It had a two-score advantage going into the latter stages of that loss to Georgia. What an amazing game last
really,
Saturday in
really.
Athens, Georgia. But it doesn't slow down for anyone, as we know in this league. So Ole Miss will take to the road to take on number 13 Oklahoma right there in that noon Eastern time slot on ABC. The Sooners, a 5.5 point home favorite. Gotta wonder in terms of Ole Miss, what did that loss take out of them in Athens last week? Um, yeah, Chambliss, I thought for 3 quarters looked up to it at the quarterback position for Ole Miss. Maybe in the fourth quarter, not as much when things tend to matter the most. And Oklahoma coming off a much needed win, a feel good win of sorts on the road at South Carolina after that loss to Texas a couple of Saturdays ago. I think this is a fascinating matchup, Brent, because you're talking about good on good when you talk about that Ole Miss offense and that Oklahoma defense.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. And there are a lot of questions here. John Mateer, the Oklahoma quarterback, is he poised and ready to go? It looks like he is much better now than he was in the Texas game, certainly. And you know, the other thing is, Trev, is Oklahoma needs to get to a situation where John Mateer is not the leading rusher.
Yep.
To get your backs going with that again. Good point about Ole Miss. They were in the game, and I give Georgia a lot of credit. We get to this in a few minutes, but Ole Miss got a little bit of nothing right in the fourth quarter, and Georgia took over the game.
They did. It you could kind of see it and sense it coming. It felt like Ole Miss really shot its wad in those first 3 quarters and just didn't have a lot left in the tank, especially defensively. Looked like an exhausted Ole Miss defense down the stretch, and Georgia with that poise and that culture of a champion. It's shown through once again for the Dogs, who, by the way, are off this week as they prepare for the interim head coach situation with the Florida Gators at the cocktail party in Jacksonville 1 week from Saturday. But yeah, I think your point about Oklahoma running the football, that's where it seems like you can really take advantage of Ole Miss
Yes.
more so than anything else. And Oklahoma ran the ball pretty effectively last week against South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, and not just with Mateer, but with those backs. So we'll see if the Sooners can continue that in the home matchup against the Rebels. Desperation mode we're getting to with both these teams, both with
Yeah,
one loss,
no
not
doubt.
just in terms of making it to Atlanta where the SEC championship game is concerned, but perhaps one of those coveted college football playoff spots as well. Kewan Lacey, I think, for Ole Miss, very critical to this. Um, and both these quarterbacks with their legs, Trinidad Chambliss, John Mateer. We saw some of Austin Simmons. Lane got pretty creative with that 2 quarterback approach
He
last
did.
week in Athens. So what might he have up his sleeve this week? And it sounds like he's considering all options after his comments about Brent Venables and sign stealing that
Yeah.
the Sooners apparently are very
Mhm.
adept at.
I think another important thing here, Ole Miss has not beaten a top 10 opponent on the road during Kiffin's 6-year tenure. Now, that's something that he will eventually get done. And I think that's something that will help them down the road. Excuse the pun there. And look, it was a great experience for Chambliss. To your point, he probably didn't handle the fourth quarter as well as he could, although Georgia had the ball most of the time.
Yeah, they
So
did.
the reality of it is, Ole Miss, they continue to learn here. But Trav, I still say these current playoffs at 12, and particularly if they go to 16, or comprised for a team like Ole Miss, a team that's probably not going to win the conference, but they're good enough, and they can probably limit the season to 2 losses and
Mhm.
still get in Yeah, as you said, crucial game for both these teams.
No doubt about it. I think I like Ole Miss on the road. I think I'm going to go against the trends or
Mhm.
the sample size we have as you outline those struggles that Ole Miss has had against top teams on the road. I think Ole Miss is going to bounce back and actually get the job done. I think,
Mhm.
um, tough to go against Oklahoma at home with that defense, especially that defensive front. That front seven in general is really good, and it could be that Ole Miss needs every bit of both those
Yeah.
quarterbacks to get it
Yeah.
done Saturday in Norman. Let's keep it moving here as we look at our next matchup on Saturday. The Auburn Tigers travel to Arkansas. Arkansas, a 1.5 favorite. We're reaching that point in the season, especially with a team like Auburn, who is winless in the SEC, as crazy as that is to say here on
Yeah.
October the 23rd, when you're talking
Mhm.
about the proud history of Auburn football. But there's been rumblings about at least a two quarterback approach, maybe from Hugh Freeze this week, I guess, Brent, if not an outright change from Jackson Arnold to Ashton Daniels, the Stanford transfer.
Yeah, and just to, I think get obviously some more production into going on, and Auburn has really struggled. I mean, they've lost some close games. Give them credit with that too, and obviously there's a lot going on with Auburn about Hugh Freeze. He's got a $15 million buyout. That's pretty manageable in a lot of ways. And I'll just touch on this. I've seen it repeated now, which maybe give it a little bit of validation, but SEC official Ken Williamson being permanently suspended with some controversial calls in the Auburn Georgia game. We'll see where that goes. I'll kind of be careful about that, but I know it's out there a good bit. Also, but Auburn, I mean, Trev continuing to struggle as far as scoring is concerned. The difficult loss to Mizzou. Mizzou made their possessions count. I give them credit. Auburn had 5 drives where they really should have scored something and really were not able to do it. Very, very difficult right now. Auburn at home under Freeze 9-10. Travis.
That's tough because you anticipate Auburn, if nothing else, being on the right side of 500 in
Yeah.
home games at Jordan Hare Stadium. That has
Mhm.
traditionally been a very difficult place to play. And, you talk about scoring opportunities, and kicking the football isn't up to the Auburn standard right now either. And it's a tough
Yeah,
situation because Alex McPherson is dealing with a very serious health issue
that's right.
and has been for quite some time. He's lost a ton of weight. You can look at him and tell frail. His brother, obviously, his older brother, a great kicker in his own right with the Florida Gators and now with the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's a family of kickers, but McPherson wasn't able to capitalize on some opportunities that, frankly, were probably outside of his range anyway last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Auburn, as you said, been close enough week in and week out. Can Jackson Arnold get the job done? This is a game kind of to me, Brent, like Oklahoma and Ole Miss. It's good versus good when you talk about that Arkansas offense against this
True.
Auburn defense, uh, and sort of under the radar. You've got people for Arkansas like Taylon Green having big years. Mike Washington Jr. at the running back position for
Yeah.
Arkansas. Last two games against Tennessee and Texas A&M, two pretty good defenses,
Mhm.
pretty good to
Mhm.
really good defenses. He's rushed for 278 yards the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
since Bobby Petrino has taken over, I think that offense for Arkansas has gone to even a higher level.
Mhm.
It's back on the defense, though, where you have the biggest concerns. The question is, can Auburn take advantage of those weaknesses that
Really.
Arkansas has?
Well, and Arkansas allowing 39 points a game. Man alive,
Mhm.
that's on the verge of 40 under Bobby Petrino. So, I mean, obviously, he hopes to come back next year and they rebuild the defense and that they're able to play better. I mean, I give them credit; they have played well under Petrino as far as being able to to rush and pass on offense. And again, the thing we don't remember here because we follow or a lot of people don't want to talk about, and I get it, is the situation of Petrino being involved when Tommy Tuberville was at Auburn, trying to get him out of the way so he could get the job. That was 22 years ago. SEC folks don't forget these things, do they?
No, they don't. They don't forgive or forget. And
No.
so that is an interesting angle to all this. I'm on record. I think Arkansas should just go ahead and make Bobby the full-time.
Yeah.
I think as more jobs open, that pecking order is going to see Arkansas sink more and more.
Yeah.
Now, if it doesn't change much for some reason, it kind of stabilizes as far as the carousel. Yeah, maybe. But that is a job that if you go in there blind, it can be especially difficult, man.
Absolutely.
And whatever you think of Bobby Petrino, he's not blind to the strengths and weaknesses of that job and what you're going to have to do to win at the highest level because he's really the last guy to do it.
That's right.
So,
oh yeah.
You know, I like Arkansas on Saturday. I think Talon Green. I understand the Arkansas defense is horrid, but I also think that even with that being the case, can Auburn still score in the mid to upper 20s? Because I don't care, as A&M found out last week, I don't care what kind of defense you got. Petrino and Talon Green and that offense, they're probably going to score upper 20s at least.
Absolutely.
To low 30s. I don't care who you are. And so I'm going to go with the Razorbacks to cover that 1.5. Also on Saturday in that 3:30 window Eastern, the Alabama Crimson Tide as a 12.5-point favorite travels to Columbia, South Carolina. Alabama's second trip to Columbia in the last 3 weeks. It's just that it was Columbia, Missouri a couple of weeks ago. Now it's Columbia, South Carolina. This is a familiar situation for Alabama from a year ago as a double-digit road favorite within the league. That didn't always work out so well for the Crimson Tide in 2024. The feeling is this is a different team, maybe more so from a mindset perspective and also just that continuity in year two that you tend to develop with a newer regime. What is your kind of sense of this matchup? Is this a upset watch worthy type of situation for Alabama going to Cola, especially after what we saw from the Gamecocks at home against Oklahoma last week?
Yeah, I think it's got to. I mean, you surely they have got something in their bag of tricks, but at the same time, former Bama coach Mike Shula, an offense coordinator in South Carolina, they have really struggled. 15 points a game, that's all they're averaging in SEC play. Haven't eclipsed 350 yards this year. And I mean, when you look at the stats, Travis, total offense, they're 127 in the nation. They are 133 in sacks allowed. I mean, I can give you a real good scenario on why Bama could dominate this game, but people will still go back to last year with Bama on the road and how much they were able to struggle. But I think they'll be okay if they limit mistakes. Ty Simpson is still just been tremendous in a lot of ways. 70% passer has made few mistakes at this point. And I think the Alabama coaching staff really have learned from last year and realize how important this is. So I think this is a big game for both these teams.
I think the addition of Ryan Grubb as the offensive coordinator has impacted this football team in ways other than just the offense.
Yes.
I think the sense of accountability with his arrival was elevated, and I think that's spread across this football team. I think he's been that important, not again, just in terms of how good he is in terms of planning and conceptually and, having in-game adjustments and, once the script runs out, what is a play caller able to kind of put in there to give their unit the best chance to succeed. I just think team wide, he's had that sort of influence on the Alabama Crimson Tide in year 2 under Kalen DeBoer. I think also the potential for some interesting matchups. Lenore Sellers has been sacked 11 times in the
Yeah.
last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
That offensive line for South Carolina has been the opposite of good. And in
Yeah.
fact, they've
Yeah.
made staff changes in season to try to address that. They've got a veteran in Sean Elliott that's taken that over now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also think Nick Harbor on the outside for South Carolina is certainly a guy to watch. He's 6'5",
Oh,
230
yeah.
pounds,
Yes.
had at least 1 touchdown catch against Alabama and
Mm-hmm.
Tuscaloosa last year. And you could have a couple of big guys in that matchup. You think wide receiver corner, you don't think big guys. But Dijon Lee, the true freshman corner for Alabama, 6'3", 6'4" corner,
Mm-hmm.
and the potential for some matchups between he and Harbor. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Talked about this with Chase Goodbread on Talking Tide last night here on the channel. It just feels like South Carolina is going to have to get something out of the kicking game, which with
Yeah.
Beamer ball,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise you because they have
Mm-hmm.
returned 3 punts for touchdowns this year. Um, and then also turnover margin, where the good news for South Carolina is they're top 5 or 6 in the league in turnover margin. The
Mm-hmm.
and the good news is they haven't turned the ball over an inordinate amount on offense. The bad news is they've also converted only like 33% of their third downs. So it's not like they've had the ball
Yeah.
enough to turn it
Yeah.
over, right?
Really. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and one thing that really has caught my eye too, Bama scored 35 points in the last minute of the first half through 7 games,
Yeah.
which means when they get the ball at the end of the half, instead of just kneeling on the ball, they're ready to score. And I think that's made a big difference for them this year.
And even when you do it right, or you think you've done it right, like Tennessee did at the end of the half
Yeah.
last week, it's
Yes.
not the Alabama offense that scores. It's the
Yeah.
Alabama
Really.
defense. That's the
Hmm.
epitome of the old double whammy. But it is a game Alabama should win. 12 and a half's a lot. These
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
dogs, they can have teeth from time to time. But
Hmm.
you do wonder also psyche-wise where this South Carolina team is, even playing at home at Williams-Brice Stadium. How about this on the list of things you wouldn't have thought a few years ago, right? College game day
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Nashville for Missouri and
Mm.
Vanderbilt, a top 15 matchup. By the way, the SEC with half of this week's AP top 10,
Yeah.
5 teams
Really.
ranked in the top 10.
Mhm.
Can Vanderbilt keep this thing going, Brent?
Well, I think that's very possible. I mean, Vandy is playing well as, frankly, anybody. They've got confidence that I'm not sure they have seen in years. Frankly, Pavia has been incredible in a lot of ways. He is among the stats leader, to say the least, too. And look, what a big win over LSU in a game they would have lost years ago. Had the ball for 35 minutes. Could give them credit for that. But I tell you what, a guy who's finally getting some credit too is Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt, who has done a good job. Trev, I had to look twice at this. Vandy 6-1,
Mhm.
first time since 1950.
Yeah, this is usually the time of the year when Vandy, if it is a 500 or better team,
Yeah.
the tread
Yeah.
starts coming off the
Mhm.
sidewalls, start coming off the
Yeah.
tires a little
Yeah.
bit because they're just not built for it
Mm-mm.
usually.
No.
This team is pretty well built for it. And especially when you got a guy like they've got at the quarterback position. And you're right about Beck. I mean, he's been nothing but really, really good since he's been in Nashville. Now it's helped that he came along with Diego
Mhm.
from New Mexico State. So that familiarity there and the fit to what Tim Beck can do with an offense has certainly been there as well. I'll give Bo Prabula some credit. We talked about it last week going into that road game at Auburn. How would he hold up? I mean, because
Yeah.
essentially he was the
Yeah.
backup quarterback at Penn State,
Mhm.
and you're going to take him into Auburn and some of these places. I think Missouri defensively is built in a way, Brent, where they can be more problematic actually for Vanderbilt than
Yeah.
LSU was,
Yeah. Good
because I
point.
think I think Missouri is still physical, but they're really twitchy too. They're
Mhm.
athletic,
Mhm.
maybe not as big as LSU defensively, and also Whit Weeks not being able to go for LSU last week wasn't a good thing for LSU. And so, you know, I can't hardly go against Vanderbilt at home at this
Yeah,
point,
I
uh,
agree.
especially again with the quarterback matchup. I thought the
Mhm.
quarterback matchup for Missouri last week was more favorable than it was the previous week against Alabama. And now I'm back to thinking it's another one of those weeks where the quarterback matchup maybe not as favorable for the Tigers on the road in Nashville.
Could real quick, could Vandy actually have more fans?
It's a
Uh,
sellout,
in-
and I mean, and if you're selling it out for Missouri, and I understand Missouri's a top
yeah,
15 team, but Missouri's not taking 30,000 fans to
no,
Nashville.
no, no, they're not.
So
No,
this is one of those that qualifies as a legit Vanderbilt sellout.
it
This
does.
isn't
It really
Tennessee.
does.
This isn't Alabama. This isn't Florida back in
Mhm.
the day when the Gators would go up there and win by 40 with Spurrier or Urban. This is a legit Vanderbilt sellout.
Yeah,
Let's talk
absolutely.
about Texas at Mississippi State. You thought Texas maybe was turning a corner a little bit after the win over Oklahoma, but we were reminded last Saturday night in Lexington, Kentucky, and this isn't to sort of devalue the difficulty that going to Lexington in October on a Saturday night can present. Um, but Texas gets the job done. It needs overtime. Really, a game at the end of it, you felt like Texas deserved to lose that
Mhm.
Kentucky game,
Mhm.
but the Longhorns survive. And now it's on the road again against a Mississippi State team that was gracious enough there late in
Yeah,
Gainesville
yeah,
last Saturday night to send Billy Napier out on a winning note.
yeah, yeah. The numbers for Texas. I mean, I had to look at this several times. Texas gained 132 total yards.
Yeah,
I mean, that tells you
brutal.
really, I mean, they were 1.7 yards per carry,
Mhm.
8 first downs, 1 offensive touchdown, and 3 or 4 power conference games. And Texas is still alive to do something in the conference. That's amazing, isn't it?
They are. They are very much alive with that one conference loss.
Yeah,
Rough night, physical night for Arch Manning. He's
man,
probably still feeling that one
yeah,
from the
probably.
Kentucky defense. And we thought Trey Wisner maybe after the Oklahoma game, even the Florida loss, you
Mhm.
saw some glimpses from him at the running back position. But it didn't happen in Lexington. Very fortunate. I guess for Mississippi State, you know, it's tough because you were that close to your first SEC win
Yeah,
under Jeff
yeah,
Lebby. You didn't have
absolutely.
the services of Fluff Bothwell, your top running
Mhm.
back, but I guess it does look like there's a possibility that Bothwell could go this Saturday afternoon against Texas. Um, this is a spot where you think once again Mississippi State with a great opportunity
Mhm.
to finally get on that in that SEC win column with Lebby, but it's just hard to pick a team that not so much doesn't know how to win yet in the
Yeah,
SEC. It's that they don't know how to not lose. It feels like
true,
more often than not.
true. Yeah, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And you remember even on that last interception by State, Trevor, if I remember right, looking beyond the Florida defenders, wasn't there a Mississippi State wide receiver almost open about 20 yards down the field, and he couldn't get the ball to him?
Well, and that's the thing. You were already in field goal range. So if I'm going to throw it there, I'm going to probably throw it,
Yeah,
instead of
right.
something short. And you end up with a simulated pressure and a big old defensive lineman drops into
Yeah,
coverage and
really.
actually made a nice play. It was
He
actually
really
a
did,
pretty
didn't he?
athletic play, so give him credit.
Mhm.
But it's like I said, when you're losing games like State has now for a couple of 3 seasons, it's almost like you come up with new ways. You throw
Sure
balls
you
to
do.
defensive
Yeah,
tackles when you're in
right.
field goal range. Now, State may not be as comfortable with their kicking situation as say Florida was with Trey Smack, and he came up big for the Gators in that game. But still, boy, a bitter pill to swallow. And we'll see. Texas offensively, if some things don't get better soon. I don't know. I don't know if we haven't already reached a point with Texas where I don't know how much of this is fixable in season.
Really?
This is stuff that you might have to hit the portal. You might have to get into your off-season stuff to really address what's not good about this Texas offense. Obviously, I'm not talking as much about Arch as I am probably the offensive line and some of the other pieces around him.
Well, and listen, when you finish the day, 4.9 yards per attempt, and then 1.7 yards per carry in rushing. That's a difficult day.
I don't care how much Sark can draw it up. I don't care about Sark's script. A lot about what Sark's done has been balance. You think about some of the offenses he oversaw at Alabama, like that 2020 group. I mean, with Najee Harris running it and Mac Jones throwing it to Devontae Smith and those guys, very, very difficult to defend. Doesn't seem that much with this Texas bunch as of yet. Hey, let's talk about Texas A&M. The Aggies going on the road, must-win situation for LSU, hosting A&M Saturday night at 7:30 on ABC. Do you feel like the ship's already sailed for this LSU team? A&M showed a little vulnerability on the road. Now, that was a late last touchdown by Arkansas to cut it to 3. But the way I look at Mike Elko and his teams right now, I think kind of like Nick Saban when he was at Alabama, and I'm not saying that Elko's going to win 6 national titles or anything like that, but I'm sure the mindset this week has been we gotta get things fixed, and we got to show we are the defense we think we are or have been prior to 500 plus yards from the Arkansas offense last week against Elko's defense. I'm expecting A&M, which doesn't seem to have a problem or mustering an edge, playing that way against LSU Saturday night.
Yeah, and LSU's had some roster changes. Ashton Stamps, cornerback, has entered the portal. They've decided to redshirt junior cornerback Stamps. Well, if that's what actually happens, in 5th-year senior Jordan Gilbert. So they're still having either players out or going the portal. Tyree Adams, the offensive tackle, is out this week too, and that's tough loss to LSU. And Travis, at this point, Brian Kelly 5-10 against ranked opponents at LSU.
Yeah, it is what it is, as they say. I guess the good news for LSU, it sounds like Bernard Gooden, the standout defensive lineman, has a chance to go this week. Didn't play at Vanderbilt a week ago. Had a pretty productive performance against South Carolina prior to that. So they're hopeful Bernard Gooden will be ready to go up front. But it does sound like Whit Weeks, the standout linebacker, is going to be out once again for LSU. And I think for A&M too, when we talk about that A&M defense, it isn't just that side of the ball that probably is going to have a little edge to it, because Marcel Reed continues to be discounted in a lot of ways in terms of the very best quarterback play that we've seen in this league through 8 weeks. So plenty for him to prove. Casey Concepcion, Le'Veon Moss, as we've talked about in the last week or so, still going to be out at the running back position, but the depth there is pretty doggone good. And so, also defensively for Texas A&M, I think you probably like the matchup better this week because you know where to find Garrett Nussmeier when you're running.
Absolutely, you do. Yes.
Talon Green and the different things that Petrino can do with a guy like that. And the balance that they were able to achieve. I just don't see LSU being able to achieve that kind of balance like Arkansas did last week. LSU, I think I give Nussmeier credit. I thought he played well against Vanderbilt. Trades Green is a phenomenal guy to watch at the tight end position at 6'7". But I think the one area of this football game that we're probably both most confident in is probably Texas A&M up front on both
Yeah.
sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Where they could take the game over. And by the way, let me just throw this little a tidbit in here. Brian Kelly's buyout, 53 million. That would be the second largest in in college football history, by the way, from what
Oh,
we understand. So, but Trav, what we also know in the SEC money not always an object. Will that save them at the end if they continue to lose?
I mean, 53 million ain't nothing,
That's
you
right.
know. And LSU's got a little something.
Yeah.
They can pass that brass spittoon around pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they can.
They're not Florida State. Florida State, this is an
Woo.
SEC show. They're in the worst situation. I mean, the big money they gave Norvell a couple of years ago
Yeah.
and what they're kind of tied into based on relative to their resources is that's a tough one for the
It
Florida
is.
State Seminoles. Hey, let's talk about Tennessee at Kentucky. Again, one of those sleepy late
Mm-hmm.
October. Now I know
Mm-hmm.
for both the fan bases it still means something. It's still a rivalry game with Tennessee and Kentucky, but that's one of those Kentucky, Kroger Field, Saturday night, Keeneland, it's going
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff, and no one's thinking about Kentucky. And
Yeah.
even
It's
after
true.
last week with the
Mm-hmm.
close loss to the Texas Longhorns, Tennessee, it's the concern I have is, Joey Aguilar, he got beat up a pretty good bit against
Sure did.
Alabama
Mm-hmm.
uh, last Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. I don't see him on today's injury report or availability report,
Yeah.
as the
Right.
SEC likes to call it. So
Mm-hmm.
that would, I totally anticipate he would play this week, but I don't know if Kentucky's still equipped in a way offensively to hurt Tennessee where
Yeah.
Tennessee's weakest, and that's still on the back end. And it looks like Jamad McCoy is still out
Yeah.
in that secondary, among others.
Mm-hmm.
So Cutter Boley, eh, he's kind of settling into that job, it feels like, for Kentucky at quarterback. Concern there is Seth McGowan, the running back, is questionable. Brent, um, I don't know if this will be a rock fight to the
Yeah.
level that Texas Kentucky was
Yeah.
last Saturday night, but I could see it being not a shootout either.
Yeah, yeah. I give Mark Stoops credit that he's able to come up with some rock fights. I tell you what, though, it's very obvious. Uh, Tennessee has some issues. Aguilar with some difficult decisions. The pass that was taken back for 99 yards being one of those. They can struggle. They made some big mistakes against Alabama, giving them drives of 91, 99 yards. Also struggling to tackle.
Yeah.
They had Jeremy Bernard at one point in their sights, and he was able to break free. The receivers dropped balls. Too many penalties. I mean, Trev, I ain't going and on, but as good a season Tennessee's had, they also have a lot of struggles too.
Yeah, and once you've gotten them truly on the road to this point,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's been problematic.
Yes.
Even the win in Starkville, a month
Yeah.
ago or so,
Mhm.
that's one that you talk about these close losses for Mississippi State. That's the one they're really kicking themselves over, you got to think.
Right.
So, that was an escape deal for Tennessee out of Starkville. And if that can be a problem in that environment, then I think Lexington can be certainly a tough game for the
Mhm.
Tennessee Vols, especially after what they expended uh, in Tuscaloosa last Saturday night. We got some folks chiming in here in the show chat. Brent,
Yeah.
Justin Summerlin, 209 says, roll damn tide. He's ready to make that trip
Yeah.
across I-20 to Columbia. I'll say this too
Mhm.
about Alabama, South Carolina. If Alabama is truly a national championship contender,
Yeah. Yeah.
they go into Columbia, South Carolina Saturday, and control that football game. I'm
Sure
not
they
saying
do.
they win. I'm not saying they win 56-14. Okay.
Right.
I'm saying they go in there and essentially do something similar to
Mhm.
what Oklahoma did last week
Yes.
in Columbia. And I understand every week's different, matchups are
Mhm.
different. I don't
Mhm.
think defensively you look at Alabama in the same light as maybe you look at Oklahoma. But bottom line, end of the day, you control the football game if you're truly a national
Mhm.
championship football team. Let's check in here with Brian Kane 2703. Says he likes our group, Brent. We give him the best intel, play by play on what happened last week and what to watch for tomorrow, Brian. We certainly appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
We've got another Brian in. He says, I've got a tasteful cap on tonight. So
Tasteful.
the cap
Excellent.
The cap is
Excellent.
approved of. So,
Okay.
Brent, we've covered it. Looking
Yep.
ahead to Saturday's action in the
Mhm.
Southeastern Conference, but we know you've always got a thing or two that you hit us with before we get out of here. So, let's do that right now. What else do we got before we call it a night, Brent?
We'll just touch on this because they're not playing, but Florida beats Georgia. Georgia meets Florida next week, and they're both off this week. Obviously, Florida with a lot going on, still trying to and look, they're not going to make a decision until after the season is over. We got to keep that in mind. Interim coach Billy Gonzalez, quarterback coach Ryan O'Hara, moving to the booth. Steve Spurrier Jr. on the sidelines with the quarterbacks. That'll be kind of interesting to see where that goes. We understand what had to happen with Billy Napier in them making that move. Georgia also off this week. Big win. Boy, I'll tell you one thing, Trav. Gunner Stockton, my stars, 26 of 31, 348, and 5 total touchdowns. That's stellar, to say the least. Unfortunately, Kobe Young fractured leg, so
Yeah.
he is out too. And I'll tell you what, I know it's not the conference we cover, but just real quick, Clemson is off this week, and boy, do
Oof.
they have issues. Florida State is off, and they need to be off desperately. Tommy Castellanos banged up a little bit. They're hoping he can get going.
He
Uh,
got KO'd. He got KO'd at Stanford, I think, the
he
other
did.
night.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No
Trying
question about
trying to
that.
slide, I think. Late hit. Yep.
Yeah,
You're
and
right. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say Georgia Tech running
Mhm.
on all cylinders, unbeaten, playing well. Louisville, really impressive. What they did against Miami, they've got Boston College. So a lot of interesting things coming out of the ACC too, Trav.
Florida fans don't want to hear this, but if you end up with Jeff Brom as your next head
Yeah,
coach, you
yeah,
could do a lot worse, and you've done a lot worse.
absolutely, absolutely.
I would have, I mean, I get Lane being at the top of that Florida list. I
Sure,
get it.
sure. Yes.
But I would have Jeff Brom ahead of Drinkwitz
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, I just think Brom's got some Petrino to him too.
He
And
does.
I think
Really
you gotta have
does.
some edge at a place like Florida.
Oh yeah.
But it's been bizarre too, and you mentioned some of the injuries we're seeing around the league. Colby Young at Georgia, big one for Auburn that I wanted
Oh
to hit
yeah.
on with, I mean, Connor Lew,
Man.
uh, starting center out for the rest of the season. That's another tough blow to Hugh Freeze's team. But yeah, I mean, uh, Florida's going to be a very interesting situation. I agree on Gunnar Stockton too with Georgia. It feels like the Alabama game for Gunnar Stockton was kind of like the Florida State game was for Ty Simpson. Now, I still
Yeah.
think Ty Simpson is a
Mhm.
more accomplished and polished passer, but there were throws in that game against Alabama that it just felt like Stockton just didn't have the confidence to make.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
since then, eh, he's been cutting it loose. And boy, those Mike Bobo gotta go folks in Athens have quieted down, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think I don't think that there's any doubt about that. And listen, I will say this, and knowing you, I know you took note of this. and that Louisville win over Miami, man alive, what they pulled out of the out from under their hat in that game, offensively and defensively, was incredibly impressive. They were ready to play, and they wouldn't eat out the better team that night, was it?
It felt like Miami thought enough of itself to think that they could just roll the U helmets out there
Yeah.
and Louisville would go fetal. And Louisville did not.
No.
Louisville took
No.
the fight to Miami. And if you'll do that to a Carson Beck quarterback team,
Yep. Yep.
you got a shot. Beck with the
Mhm.
4 picks, and I understand
Mhm.
maybe not all 4 were his fault, but it seemed like whenever Louisville needed to make the play, they made it in that upset of the Miami Hurricanes. And again, I can't say enough good things about Jeff Brom and the job he, not just at Louisville, but at Purdue. You know,
Yes.
go
Yes.
look at what Purdue's been since he left in the last couple
Mhm.
of years. They're on their
Mhm.
second coach since he left, and it wasn't all that long ago. And that plays into as well some of the consternation that Kentucky fans have
Oh,
with
yeah.
Mark Stoops
Sure.
because they see Jeff Brom getting this thing set up for a very long haul if he does choose to stay there at UL. And I'll say this about UL too, that that school, that fan base is more passionate about college football than you think.
Yeah, they really are. Yes.
People think of that fan base as kind of Vanderbiltish, I think, when it comes to
Mhm.
football because they are so big on hoops at Louisville. No. I mean, it obviously helps when they're good, but they have committed over the last 20, 25 years to football at a very high level.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Trav, my last thing is uh, Ole Miss, Georgia, 9.8 million. Tennessee, Bama, 8 million. LSU, Vandy, 5.9 million. All, oh, by the way, on ABC, do you think the ABC folks are pretty happy with the SEC, Travis?
They're loving those numbers for that big noon kickoff. And guess what? They're rolling Ole Miss, Oklahoma out there at noon this week.
That's
Big
right.
Ten.
Absolutely.
Yeah, enjoy that. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't
Absolutely.
know. Does Fox big noon kickoff? Is it like Illinois, Minnesota this week or something?
Yeah, probably. Well,
Yeah.
Funky, yeah, yeah, that's a good that's a good point. I mean, you've got Michigan State, but that's at night. So yeah.
What's the big noon game in the big?
Oh, UCLA to Indiana.
There you go. Enjoy it. Got that LA market that has all of about 6 UCLA fans in it.
And that may be an exaggeration too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I think
Lord.
so. Big noon kickoff.
Oh,
Yeah,
my.
it's in the SEC again this week. Brent, always a lot of fun, my friend. Anything else before we get out of here?
Well, that's it, Travis. Thanks again for everyone and their support for us, and hear good things continually throughout the week. We work hard with this, and glad to do it, and good to be on with one of my closest friends in my life to be able to do it too. So
Gosh,
that's a lot of fun too.
what are we, 33 years?
Oh,
We've,
yeah,
we've
that's right.
in some form or fashion been doing stuff like this
Yes.
together, and it's been a blast, every single one of them.
Oh,
So, for my great friend Brent Beaird, I'm Travis Reier. Thanking you once again for joining us right here for Second Helping on the Reier on YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel as of yet, please take the time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, mash it, hit that like button as well. That helps us out. A thumbs up means a lot. Until next time, so long, everybody.